Today, we're going to start out specifically talking about, there we go, understanding locked dates in RV Life Trip Wizard. So, if that's a topic of interest to you, hang on as well. So, without further ado, let me turn off this banner here real quick, and we are going to dive into the locked dates feature and understanding that. Let me get to that, share that window first and get the screen that I want. Okay, so the lock dates is an interesting feature. It was really heavily requested when it first came out. I was certainly not on not on the fan. How do I say this? I didn't really see the need for it. I mean, the way Trip Wizard plans your trips and you have to add a number of nights to fill the gaps, it all made sense to me. But now having seen it implemented and seeing it used, it's actually pretty darn cool. And it works extremely well. There is a confusion point about choosing and picking the dates in the lock date. So we're going to try to cover that and make that uh, clearer, and hopefully it makes a lot of sense to folks. So what I've got here on the screen is a trip from looks like National Indoor RV Center near the Atlanta area to one of the AIM rallies happening in the fall, September in Angel Fire. I've been to Angel Fire. It's really a lovely resort. Getting there is fun at night, even though I get there during the day if you can. But it's a beautiful resort. So you can see I've got a basic shell of a trip planned right here. Now, here's the caveat. I'm leaving. I'm from the standpoint of the owner of this RV, for example, is, let's say that September 1st they're leaving. Either their rig's going to be ready, being done from service, or they're taking it out of storage at that time. Whatever the case may be, they're leaving National Indoor on September 1st. However, the AIM rally is not until, don't quote me, September 18th or 19th or something like that. Um, so obviously it thinks I'm going to leave Atlanta here and show up in Angel Fire 1,400 miles away in 26 hours. Well, that's not going to happen, right? So what I need to do here is I have a specific place to be at a specific time, which is this AIM rally in Angel Fire. But obviously, getting there is more or less a fluid motion. It's a trip I haven't planned yet. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to lock in these dates. Now, without me Googling it, making sure I got it right, it's around the 18th or 19th. So I'm going to go in here. I'm not going to, obviously, I don't want to lock it now with the wrong date. So I'm just going to click on the little pencil icon here. And we're going to choose lock date of stay. Now, obviously, it's the wrong date shown right this minute. So the first thing that I see people doing, and when I look at that, I see two dates. Right away, I'm thinking rental car, hotel, airline flight, where I've got to pick one and then pick the other, right? Even though that's true, it's sort of done in a single motion here. So I'm going to click virtually anywhere in this bar that it'll let me, right here, for example. And I can set my dates with just 2 clicks, okay? You may not be able to name that song in 2 notes, but I can set my date in 2 clicks. I don't need to drag and drop and click multiple times and do all this. This is where the confusion lies. I don't need to choose a starting point, a start date, then go back into the menu and choose an end date. 2 simple clicks, right? Let's say we said this was on the 14th to the 18th. Done. And you can see my dates are correct, 9/14 to 9/18. I didn't have to choose 2 separate instances like I might for a rental car or I might for a hotel room. It's 1 click. If I go back into that right now, you can see that those dates are currently highlighted. Now, suppose I made a mistake and I clicked on the wrong stuff. Well, my inclination is, of course, oh, I got to clear those dates somehow. No, you don't. Let's say, for the sake of example here, that I misspoke and the rally is from the 6th to the 13th. Now it's not, but let's say it is, and we're going to change that. I don't need to clear. I don't need to click multiple date range. I don't need to do anything. Again, 2 clicks, 6 to 13, and it's done. It sets the date range. It closes the little calendar window, and it's fixed. And then I find out, oh, I read it wrong. You're right. It is indeed from 13, I'd say 14 to 18. Boom. 2 clicks. That's it. That little nuance has proven to be really confusing for folks. And we might come back to that, but let's move on a little bit. And if I go ahead and hit save here, we're going to see that the best feature we have right here, which now it shows me, hey, when I leave National Indoor with my RV on 9/1, I've got 13 nights to burn before I get to Angel Fire. This is the ideal, original sort of plan or use case behind locked dates. Now, what I see too many times is folks get into a planning stage here, and their first inclination is to add a trip, or add a stop, lock the date, add a stop, lock the date. That's usually unnecessary, and it's also can back you into a bit of a corner when you suddenly have no nights free. And I'm going to attempt to simulate that here, but um, we'll see how that goes. But this is really the use case, is to have a target that's fixed, and then work towards that target. Now, some folks are checking the lock date to sort of signify they have a reservation. And there's a different way to do that that's less caustic, and I'll show you that. But let's add a couple of stops here, just build this out a little bit and see how this works out. So you can see, as we've discussed in previous videos, this driving radius shows me where I'm going to be at the end of my driving day. And so I'm going to turn on my campgrounds. I have no filters engaged right now. And I'm going to look for a RV park or campground that is, again, as we've talked about, where my route and my driving radius intersect. That's where I want to camp, right? We'll just briefly touch on this. You can see that I have my driving settings set for advanced radius, 5 hours a day, at an average speed of 55 miles an hour. This is an overall average. So I know from experience, this is exactly where I want to be. I don't want to drive less than this. I don't want to drive more than this. This is where I want to end up. And so now I just try to find a campground that is as close to that radius as possible. Now, we're not going to be overly selective here. Obviously, something with 0 amenities probably isn't in my wheelhouse right now. But I'm going to try to find just something we can grab. And this is a case where I can see, look, I've got a scale down here. You might be able to see that down at the bottom where my mouse is. It's 10 miles. And I can see that this is a little farther than I want to drive. But for the sake of getting a campground that has all the amenities I want, I'm willing to drive what looks to be about an extra half hour, right? So I'm going to add this to my trip. And remember, I've got 13 nights to burn here. So I can be selective. I can drive less, I can drive more, or I can stay longer at varying places. So this looks like a lovely place. If you've been here, maybe you can let us know in the comment section. But I'm going to add this to my trip, and I'm going to go ahead and just use, we're going to say 3 nights here at this location, and see how it goes. Now, I don't want to stay after my last stop. Of course, my last stop is Angel Fire. I want to stay after National Indoor. And so now if we get a quick look at my trip, I'll hide the campgrounds again briefly. First, of course, over here, you can see my driving radius has moved with me to my next campground. So it'll be able to show me where I need to find another campground next whenever I start driving again, which after this case is 3 days. And then you can see over here in the trip menu on the left, that I now have 10 nights available, which makes perfect sense, of course, because I had 13 and I just spent 3 nights, right? And so I can gauge my drive and say, all right, that wasn't bad. You know what? And I might so here's a great instance of I might come back as I rough this plan out, and I might come back and say, you know what? I think we should stay 5 nights at Barnes Crossing instead of 3. At this stage in the planning, I don't know that yet. So what's the thing I don't want to do right now? Well, I don't want to go lock that date, right? I don't want to click on this lock. Now I get this lock right here. Well, now I've kind of pigeonholed myself into that. Well, it's not time for that. It's too early in the planning for that. Um, I could potentially lock that if I wanted to after I had already made reservations. But even then, it's somewhat unnecessary because I can go to my pencil icon. I can just put a reservation confirmation number in here. And then I'll see with this little calendar icon right here under the nights that I have a reservation. It doesn't mean I can't lock that. But again, at this point, I wouldn't be making reservations this early. It's still in the planning stage, right? So we're not going to have a reservation number. We're just going to get this thing roughed out. And I'll show you why. We'll do some date locking in a little bit, and I'll show you what can happen here. So let's just find another campground. We got to build this trip out real quick. And let's turn on the campgrounds again. And we could stay at a nice Corps of Engineers here if we wanted to. Not a lot there. No big rigs. We don't want to overdo this thing, but here's something off to the side. No Wi-Fi, but it holds big rigs, so or we'll even do a little bit less than that. What do we got here on the route? Okay, sure. We'll treat this like a one-nighter. We're not going to stay anywhere fancy. We just want to make a little bit of a shorter day and get out of Dodge, really, right? So we'll look at our entire trip again, and we'll see that my driving radius has moved, and now I'm on to the next section. Let's see what we can find here. All right, so here we're up near Oklahoma City. So this might be a case where, okay, we're gonna stay a little bit longer. We're gonna do some things in Oklahoma City. Maybe we're gonna go to the Choctaw Casino or something. I don't know, but we'll grab this KOA. I'm gonna add it to my trip. And we're gonna stay 5 days in lovely Oklahoma City. And we'll add that to my trip. So now we've got a couple of things we can look at here. I'm going to turn off my campgrounds and show my entire trip again. And we see that I've got 4 nights available because I burned 1 night at Trails End, and then I burned 5 days in Oklahoma City. Maybe you've got business there. Maybe we do whatever. One of those things where when you're near a big city, go to the vet, go to the doctor, stock up on groceries, whatever the heck it is you want to do. But now I've got 4 nights to get to Angel Fire, and Angel Fire is a 10-hour drive, so that's 2 days driving for me. And so we need to fill in again. So let's come in here and find us another campground to continue our journey. So now we're in Amarillo here, and we know from experience that we'll stay at the Oasis RV Resort. We're going to add that to my trip, and we're going to stay 3 nights. And now we're going to look at our entire trip again. And so now I can get to Angel Fire the next day. Okay, so I've got a couple of decisions to make here. I still have a night available, and Angel Fire is a full day away. It's 300 miles. It's from Amarillo here. It's 5.5 hours. Now, if I haven't ever been there before, I might say, well, let's just push that and do it, right? But I have been there before, and I remember distinctly that the drive coming in through some of these roads here, right here through 64, sorry, I just maybe don't want to be doing that at the end of the day, right? So I might instead here, knowing I have a night available, I happen to know there's a couple of places here in Raton. I've stayed at the KOA in Raton. Let's add that to my trip. One night after Oasis. And now that way my next day will just be a little over hour, hour and a half. I can take my time. So, and you see here on the left now that the number of nights I have available is no longer, what am I trying to say? The number of nights I have available is gone. That little warning is gone. I've properly filled my nights. Now, while I still have a chance here, I could begin making reservations, trying to fill in these night, essentially book all these accommodations. What I might find is, for example, crossing at Barnes maybe only has 2 nights available. So I might have to stay 2 nights here, or maybe I stay 6 nights in Oklahoma City, or perhaps Oasis only has 2, so I stay an extra day. The point is, I work my way through my list and polish off and finish off those reservations and get them all booked and get my trip solidified, because I might still have to make changes. If I lock all these dates down, which I'll do right now, we'll lock these all down. Okay, all my dates are locked, and now I start making phone calls and I find out that I need to stay in Oklahoma City. Let's say that I need an extra night here. I'm trying to just think of this on the fly, but let's say let's start here. I make my first phone call. Barnes says, "Oh, no, it's you got to stay 4 nights. It's part of our deal, or it's a holiday weekend or whatever," right? So I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll stay 4 nights." So I go in here and I change. You can see, look, it's locked. So now I can try to I don't have any nights left is what I'm trying to get at. Even when I unlock this, I have no more nights available. I have no more flexibility. And so this is where you just don't want to get too knee jerk about locking these dates. It's once my trip is solidified and I'm not making any more changes, I could potentially lock those if I want to. But then again, if I'm not doing anything else with the trip, I kind of don't need to lock. Um, I think a lot of us are a little bit mixed on how this feature should be used, but the way that I just demonstrated it, where I to use it as an aid to help you. The idea is it helps you not have to do math, which I'm a really big fan of, not having to do math. And I don't have to sit here and go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 days. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days. I don't have to do any of that. I just lock my final destination because that's solidified. The rally perhaps has been paid for months in advance, and those dates are firm. They are not changing no matter what happens. Whereas my journey to get there is going to change until I lock it all down. So I don't really feel the need to use locking features except for that final destination, and it counts down those number of available nights. So that's the real intent and the real use case of how that date locking was originally intended. And then just to reiterate here, the act of locking and unlocking or setting these dates is less complicated than you think it is. It's almost too easy, in a sense that it's 2 clicks once you get into the window, versus again a hotel or a car reservation or an airline flight where I have to pick a start and do it, pick a stop and do it, or return. It's more like pick up and return. Here it's 1 click to get into the calendar module, and then 2 clicks to set my date. Now you can do it across months. If this was, for example, September 22nd through August 5th or something like that, I click the 22nd, I arrow over, click the 5th, done. That's it. 2 clicks. 2 clicks. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to erase. You don't have to clear. You don't have to click start. You don't have to click end. It's just open the calendar and 2 clicks. That's it. And I'll put this back to wherever it was, 13 to 18. It's so simple. See? So this is a great example. I love this so much that I actually accidentally did it. So you remember when I first chose this, I chose the 14th through the 18th. And I kind of mumbled and fumbled about whether it was the 13th or the 14th. And I said, well, I'll just pick the 14th. Well, just here, I just tried to click the 13th. And I got that big orange banner that said, no, there's not enough nights. You can't pick the 13th because that's already dealt with, accounted for. So it's a real great eye opener to keep you on schedule. So now we go 14 through 18. And again, my initial thought is to go fix the start date, but that's not how it works. It's always just 2 clicks. So if I needed to fix, if I was on 13 and 18, as you can see I am, when I need to fix that, it's just 2 clicks. 14, 18, done. So, I don't think we could make it any simpler than that. I do get why it's different and confusing in a sense of it's not like we do in other areas. But when you're developing something that a lot of folks might be using on a touch screen or even a phone, we want it to be as simple, like our tablet like that. We want it to be as simple as possible. So that is going to be the segment for locked dates.